Kevin Owens breaks his silence after being added to the WWE Championship match. Liv Morgan shares an interesting stat ahead of her championship match next week on Raw, and Roman Reigns gets involved in an intense stare-down with Seth Rollins after Raw goes off the air. What's up, everyone? I'm Jose G, and there's a lot to talk about in today's Sportskeeda Wrestling WWE News Roundup. Never miss brand new content by liking, sharing, and subscribing to our YouTube channel. Kevin Owens breaks his silence after being added to WWE Championship match. In the aftermath of this week's episode of Raw, Kevin Owens reacted to being added to the WWE Championship match at the Day 1 pay-per-view. Taken to Twitter, Kevin Owens reposted a tweet posted from WWE's official account and captioned it saying, "I did it," after securing his spot in an upcoming world title match. On Monday Night Raw, Kevin Owens defeated Big E via DQ after Seth Rollins interfered in the match. Rollins initially set his sights on Owens, which led to a win for the former WWE Universal Champion. Rollins also targeted Big E as well. KO is a former Universal Champion, but starting off 2022, Owens could win the WWE Championship from Big E. Previously, Seth Rollins earned himself a shot at the title by winning in a fatal four-way ladder match and was then excited for his title bout against Big E. However, as seen this week, WWE pulled off another major swerve in the title picture. For weeks, Kevin Owens has engaged in a feud with both Big E and Seth to put himself in the main event picture after assaulting the current champion a few weeks ago on Raw. At Day 1 on January 1st, 2022, three of Monday Night Raw's current top stars in the form of Big E, Seth Rollins, and Kevin Owens will go into battle against one another, and one of these three men will walk out the WWE Champion. A released WWE Superstar sends a warning to Edge. WWE Hall of Famer Edge received a warning from the recently released John Morrison following the events of Raw. The Rated R Superstar finally made his long-awaited return to Raw on this week's episode. After being confronted by former WWE Champion The Miz, the duo engaged in a fierce war of words. After the segment ended, former WWE Superstar John Morrison sent a stern warning to Edge via Twitter. He told the Hall of Famer that he should be prepared to get slaughtered if he messes with his friend. The WWE Universe commended the back and forth between Edge and The Miz. Longtime fans of the latter might remember that the A-lister has squared off against a WWE veteran on several past occasions. John Morrison has been on The Miz's side for a long while at this point. They used to be a major tag team on WWE TV before the A-lister was pushed as a single star by Vince McMahon. They won the tag team titles on 3 occasions during their run together. The Miz went on to headline WrestleMania with John Cena. Interestingly, Edge opened up WrestleMania 27 in 2011 while the A-lister closed the show with a win over Cena. Edge versus The Miz is bound to give fans a bunch of terrific in-ring contests soon. Here's hoping The Miz finally breaks his 0-3 losing streak against the WWE Hall of Famer. Liv Morgan shares an interesting stat ahead of her championship match next week on Raw. Liv Morgan is gearing up for the biggest singles match of her career next week. The WWE Superstar and Becky Lynch came face-to-face for a contract signing on this week's Raw. Sonya Deville announced that next week, Liv Morgan will get her title opportunity on Monday night. Liv took to Twitter to share an interesting trivia about her upcoming matchup with Big Time Bex. The tweet detailed that the match between Liv Morgan and Becky Lynch is scheduled exactly 17 years after Trish Stratus and Lita main evented Raw in a match for the WWE Women's Championship. Liv Morgan has been drawing praise from all quarters of late. Several current and former superstars have come out in support of Liv in the run-up to the match. WWE Hall of Famer and 7-time Women's Champion Trish Stratus also shared her appreciation for Liv Morgan. Trish Stratus took to Twitter to acknowledge that Liv Morgan's entrance gear was a nod to Trish's own gear from back in the day. This week, Liv Morgan and Becky Lynch were pitted against each other in a massive 10-women tag team contest. Team Liv consisted of Liv Morgan, Dana Brooke, Bianca Belair, Rhea Ripley, and Nikki ASH, while Becky enlisted the help of Carmella, Queen Zelina, Doudrop, and Tamina and her team. As the match drew to a close, Liv Morgan hit the Oblivion on Tamina and picked up an important win ahead of her championship match next week. After the match, a melee ensued in the ring where Bianca Belair floored Doudrop with a spinebuster, and Morgan hit another Oblivion on Big Time Bex, sending a message to the champion. Seth Rollins sends an angry tweet to five-time world champion. Seth Rollins would love to see Brock Lesnar maul Adam Pearce again if his latest tweet is any indication. On this week's edition of Raw, Kevin Owens won a non-title match against Big E following interference by the Visionary. As per the stipulation, Owens was added to the WWE title match at Day 1, which was originally scheduled to be Rollins versus E. Seth Rollins was furious beyond belief and took to Twitter to express his anger. He posted a reply to Adam Pearce's tweet and stated that he hopes Brock Lesnar destroys him on SmackDown. Earlier in the night, KO told Rollins that Pearce had made a promise to add him to the Day 1 WWE title match if he managed to beat Big E in a non-title bout. Seth Rollins later approached Adam Pearce, who made it clear that Kevin Owens was telling a lie. When Sonya Deville asked Pearce what was going on, he told her about Owens' lie. She was thrilled with the idea and somehow convinced him to make it official. When Rollins had another chat with Pearce, the latter stated that he agreed with Deville on KO's lie being a good idea. A furious Seth Rollins walked off after calling Pearce a liar. With a big win over Big E, Kevin Owens has now been added to the WWE title match at Day 1. Owens, Rollins, and the New Day member will square off in a triple threat match for the latter's title. As for Brock Lesnar, he has been away from WWE TV for a while now. Lesnar destroyed everyone in his path following his Universal title loss to Roman Reigns at Crown Jewel. When Adam Pearce suspended the Beast Incarnate for his actions, he executed 2 thunderous F5s on him. Brock Lesnar's suspension has finally been lifted and he's all set to return to SmackDown this week. He certainly won't be in a good mood, and anyone who crosses his path will be in major trouble. After what happened last time, it looks unlikely that Pearce will come in Lesnar's way this time around. Roman Reigns gets involved in an intense stare-down with Seth Rollins after Raw goes off the air. WWE fans in attendance for this week's Raw witnessed Roman Reigns come face-to-face with friend-turned-foe Seth Rollins after the show went off the air. Both men had crossed paths on the Blue brand when the Tribal Chief was feuding with Cesaro. The Architect also unsuccessfully demanded a match for the Universal Championship after winning a big match at Hell in a Cell. After this week's Raw, the two came face-to-face for the first time since the draft. The stare-down took place as Seth Rollins headed backstage after the main event, and Roman Reigns came out for his dark match. Roman Reigns and the Usos were involved in a dark match after Raw ended. They took on Drew McIntyre and the New Day's Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods, with the babyfaces getting a win, sending the crowd home happy. Thanks for watching today's Sportskeeda Wrestling WWE News Roundup. For exclusive content you never want to miss, you gotta subscribe to our YouTube channel and smash that notification bell so you never miss whenever we drop brand new content. Follow us on all social media and download the Sportskeeda app for the most up-to-date stories in the world of wrestling.